Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando Leduc, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in.
Hi, Dani.
Hello.
So happy to have you today here on Spaghetti on the Wall. And so I ask our audience to join us for Spaghetti on the Wall as we welcome Dani Dufresne, Emmy Award-winning executive producer and founder of the Aux Co. Dani is the industry's go-to when creative stakes are sky high. With over 2 decades of experience, she's helping agencies scale production, lead with clarity, and thrive in the new era of creative work. From global brands like Google and Nike to cutting-edge creative shops, Dani empowers bold ideas with seamless execution, and she's here to pull back the curtain and tell us how it's all done. So, Dani, what's the boldest idea you've ever helped bring to life?
I would say bold. There's bold, good bold, bold, bad bold, right? I have a couple of years ago I did a very bold, maybe too bold idea with Public where they really wanted to promote the launch of their app, which is an online trading app, and they give you a little bit of free stock in certain companies, and they had already commissioned when they called me, but they commissioned a full-size statue of Elon Musk that they wanted to have put up, a bronze statue for his 50th birthday that they wanted to have put up in New York City somewhere, and have like an event around, kind of like a stunt for a week. And it was very interesting. So I've done a lot of those kinds of things, but it was up for 3 hours before we had to take it down because Twitter was pretty upset about it.
Really? Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was in Midtown, or it was in Meatpacking, but it was kind of like a good idea, and it just wasn't like fully, executed. It was executed well. It just was like at the beginning, kind of a good example of why I like to be involved earlier. But I would say a bold, great idea is that I worked with Wells Fargo to do a content series where we went around the country for 6 weeks, filming at a different small business every week and surprising them with like an expert to help come and sort of make over. It was sort of like a makeover show for small businesses.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that was really inspiring, just to get to change people's lives. And also I think it's nice to see a brand like embrace the good that they do for the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what's the most insane thing that's happened on set that no one would ever believe? Like just a crazy happening?
Oh my goodness, there's been a lot of things. I
here for it.
I also have to be careful of what I say and don't say.
I interview lawyers most of the time. They're like, "What can I share? What can I not share?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, we can get basic through lines and ideas and stories."
I have had talent, walk off set. I have had, animals that were not acting very well behaved.
Yeah.
I think, even anything just like, talent getting sick the night before and having to scramble and like change the thing entirely, or, original casting issues and then having to like change things at the last minute. I think I guess why I have trouble just answering the question is because I don't find anything that crazy or difficult. Like everything has a solution. So absolutely. I'm like, that's just another day
just another day. As a producer, stage manager, theater person, things that are exciting to me, I'm just not very excited by much, like
Yeah.
I imagine it would
Normally, I have thought about every single thing that's going to go wrong or that could go wrong well enough in advance that I have a lot of plans.
Yeah,
Typically, it's more of like me telling everyone, "Oh no, I knew that would happen, so I made this plan and this plan, and like we rolled it out."
exactly.
But it's kind of, I mean, that's the fun part of it. I think, like
Mhm.
putting the puzzles together and solving the problems.
Absolutely. Just a side note, what would be like one of the more fun reasons someone walked off set without telling us who or
Having a baby, and people finding out that like someone finding out that their wife is in labor and having to run off set
oh my
uh,
gosh.
because of it, or um, yeah, like wardrobe malfunctions, which is kind of funny. But typically it's more of just like, especially with celebrity talent, you have a very small amount of time to work and they will, you have that in there. But I think it tends to be more fun when it's like they're up for anything or the brand is up for anything. And then it ends up being like let's go take a crazy right turn and climb up this mountain and film the side of it or whatever. And that tends to be more realistic. I don't leave a lot left unplanned before we get to set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as any
Yeah.
professional would. So, what makes a truly great executive producer today that didn't matter 10 years ago?
A vast network. I would say that whereas 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, part of the reason I started the company was after being in-house on the agency side for so long and, in-house at post and production before that, I was seeing a bit of a laziness from EPs and agencies just hiring the same company over and over again, which sort of means you're getting the same thing. You're not getting, any boundaries pushed. You're not pushing the creative any further. And now as the creatives and the agency and even brands themselves have to really map everything out much tighter before it even moves into production. I think they weren't used to having to answer some of those questions. And so there's a lot of educating. And so I would say I educate a lot, and then I'm bringing a lot of, talent to the table. I'm constantly looking out for new talent or new partnerships and connections. I think, when someone says producer or even executive producers, they can mean so many different things. And I feel at the end of the day, a good executive producer is just a connector of the right teams to the right projects.
Yeah, getting the right people in the right room on the right project,
And people you wouldn't have expected or different approaches. And, I like to say that no is easy and that saying yes is hard. And you can always get a yes. You may just have to take an interesting creative approach to it.
Absolutely. And working with different people always, for me at least, I mean, I know for most people, it sparks new kinds of creativity and, creates different fun, new neural pathways that lead to something way better than the same handful of people doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. Or if you're saying, if the creative team has a vision saying, oh, we just want to do this, or we just think it's this, and then they're just going and finding the people that just do that thing to execute it. They're not finding different ways to get the juice out of the idea, right? How can you take other approaches or, so I try to always do that, which is the really fun part.
Yeah. That sounds very exciting. So, what was the aha moment that made you realize the agency model was broken?
I was seeing a lot of agencies and even brands saying we're building an in-house studio. We're bringing, we're going to do this all in-house. And I had a finance director bring me a scope and say, why are we sending $400,000 to this production company to do this commercial? There's nothing here we can do. We can't keep any of this money in-house. And the idea of that just didn't click with me. I mean, you want to go find the people that do exactly what you need and do it well. It shouldn't matter if it's sitting in your P&L or paying an out of, house vendor. It's getting the work done to the best, of your abilities and to the best that the creative can scope to, and what you promise the clients. And I think that is the more that you see these agencies merge together and just try to like become one giant monster because they can't stand on their own.
Yeah.
And I was seeing that, and I didn't know. I knew the agency model was broken. I knew that like I had been hired to kind of come in and fix, this particular department. And a lot of times when they hire people to fix stuff, that's when they realize they don't want to actually fix anything.
Yeah.
So I started the Aux Co really not knowing what I wanted the company to be. I just had become that fixer that everyone called when they had a problem. I need a guy who can make, I need a guy who can build a, video game for me. I need a guy who can do this photo shoot in 2 days, whatever it was. And that's all I really wanted to do, was be connecting people.
Yeah.
And the term fractional didn't really exist when I started the company. So, I didn't want to be a freelance producer, but I also didn't want to be a production company. I didn't want to get, pinned into one particular style or way of working or type of thing that I make. I mean, I can do a photo shoot the same time that I'm having a 3D model of a talent made so that they can be in this like game, like whatever it is. I like being able to evolve with the project and think about all the different ways it can come to life instead of just like the industry norms.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, those industry norms just start to burn and churn similar product after similar product. And that, I don't think that that's great for us as a society, much less like great for us as artists trying to grow as humans in this world.
And as small agencies, I was being approached by people that were starting their own small agencies and really being able to compete with the larger agencies because they can pitch bigger, bolder ideas without all the overhead. But they don't need a full-time producers. They don't need full-time people that specialize in certain things that when their projects are constantly changing. So it's great because I can come in really early and help them think about, I know the brand is just asking for this one video idea or this one thing, but what if we did it like this? And like, what if we did, how else can we bring it together? Because a lot of times I think people only ideate within their own capabilities, and they don't ideate around anything if they can't like picture it. So I get to get in there and help. And I think that's the key to really production now, is getting production expertise as early in the creative process as possible and just not waiting until, okay, we have this brief, we need you to go make this thing. And at that point, I can't evolve it into anything else. I can't like improve upon it very much.
Sounds like you're like the personified vision board for people,
I try to be. I think that's what the good partnerships are. The good agencies work that way, especially these younger creatives that are coming up that aren't used to just handing stuff off to a director who would do everything. And I work with a lot of younger creatives where I educate them and even just how to do a production book, how to like think about production, how to, just because the vision's in your head and you see it perfectly, it's still that game of telephone, right? And you need to make sure that not only are you communicating with all the partners that all the pieces are right, but also that your client actually understands what you're making. Because the amount of times I've been on a pre-pro call and the clients have been like, what? No, that's not what we need. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, totally. I work with younger kids too sometimes. And my phrase is always, if you like, it doesn't matter what your idea is, if you can't put words to it, and it doesn't have to be elaborate and difficult. It can be very simple, ways. If you can't communicate it, we can't bring it to life.
And I think a lot of times, especially when people come from like design and they're going up into like the art direction or copywriting world, and then all of a sudden they're like pitching full campaigns, they don't know how to think of the simple. And from a film, I went to film school. So like from a film perspective, I like to kind of think about it as one box of a storyboard. You should be able to put like everything I need to know. There should be one still or one photo, like of whatever this idea is that explains everything. And this is actually why I really am excited about AI right now, because I think that a lot of people are worried about it, but I think if it gets us to the core idea faster, and it gets us to a visual example of how to pull it off faster, then that's all it's really there for. It's not like people aren't going to want to go and see just fake AI made only like
no,
imagery. It's more of like yeah, it's more of just like ideating and getting to a place where like you can visualize the idea on paper a
Mhm.
lot faster. So, and I can't make anything if I can't see what you want, right? So that's really
Absolutely.
exciting to me, and I think that that's going to be a huge benefit to some of these up and coming creatives too.
Yeah, I agree. What I've been noticing is that AI has started to help me actually go to other people and
Mhm.
clarify what we are
Mhm.
looking for so that we can have AI create us some sort
Mhm.
of model before we move
Mhm.
forward, you know? So it's really getting me to have, better conversations with my coworkers.
Yeah, I'm building a lot of bots right now that are just automatically sketching storyboards when I get, a treatment
Mhm.
sentence or just to, make it a little bit more simple or a camera layout or a schedule or whatever it is. I think it's, I think about old time like production boards, strip boards. I don't know
Mhm.
if you ever seen
Yeah,
those,
yeah,
but
yeah. I
it's if it just gets that organized that much faster to
Mhm,
where you can get to the yes and you can get to the how you're going to do it.
mhm.
Um, that helps too. I mean, when we're all like, when at this point, all of our time is money. So it's just going to be more time spent on the juicy stuff and pushing it further. And that's where like more innovation and more creative is going to occur versus we've been regurgitating the same 27 storylines for everything, all media for the last 30 years.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the biggest misconception agencies have when they first start working with Ox?
I think that it's that how involved we should be. I think that especially the older, more established creatives that have been around a long time, they are very like they aren't used to like agency or producers even being involved until the whole thing is already like done and signed off. And so I think there's this sense of like, we're just going to give you this thing. Here's the instructions, go make it. But they don't realize how unclear their instructions are, or they don't
Oh,
realize
yeah.
that it's not the best way to tell it. So, one of the great things I feel about the way that we work embedded with agencies and brands is that our role as their consultant is to really be honest about like what works. Like we're only going to come with ways to make this better, to get this done for the budget, to, push creative capabilities and to think beyond this for you. And
Mhm.
I think that's always surprising to them because that's not how freelance producers work. Freelance producers are very much like, okay, and they do whatever they're told. And that is not what we are, which is why I'm very like specific about that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're an artist too, you know? So,
And it's like I used to joke all the time, like I don't even, our reel, it says this is not our work because it's not our work. I work with amazing, talented creatives that, I'm just taking their visions and
mm,
bringing it to life in every way that I can. I don't, because of that, like we don't have, there's no ego, like from
yeah.
on our end. It's take our ideas, don't take our ideas, but typically it's more of like here's how you can here's the 5 ways you can do it and here's how it's going to play out and be better, and then you guys pick one, right? Or the really good clients that I have that have worked with me for years, they just trust me enough too where they know that I know what they want already because I've worked with them long enough to know like where they want to push or where they want
Mm,
to add a little, like I speak their language enough, whereas I feel like very often freelance producers don't do that. They're not able to embed with your team and like really
mm,
understand you, or they kind of just do the bare minimum. I think that there's a level of work quality and advancements that your in-house team isn't going to ever give you. They're too overloaded. They're not the
mm.
best people to execute every single thing you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you said it right there. So what's one operational mistake you see creative shops repeat over and over?
Using the same people, using the same editors, using
Yeah.
the same directors, because like you don't realize you're doing it, and then it's all of a sudden you've used the same director for 3 different brand campaigns. Now they all look pretty similar,
Mhm.
and it's just a sense of, oh, I know they'll do it. Well, yeah, but there's probably also other people that will do it.
Absolutely.
And then I would say not thinking about more, not thinking about how can this story be told just in the way that the brand is asking for, but also in every way across every medium. And too often, I think that creative agencies don't want to mess with media and they don't care about it. They don't like want to be involved. And then, you shoot an entire amazing campaign or you work on this project forever and then it falls flat because the media is completely disconnected from it.
Yep.
It's not showing up in the way that it needs to, or there were really innovative ideas that you could have done. Like there's things you could have done with some of the media pieces, digital or out of home, that are very reflective of where they are. And so that is always a thing that like I'm trying to push people on a little bit further too.
That's right on. Which client taught you the most and what did they do differently? Who influenced you the most?
It's a lot of people. I would say I have a few that have influenced me in just the way that they work with, they work with their consumers from a brand side. I did a brand campaign and the complete package like redesign work for Mad Hippie, who had kept the exact same, you know them from your health store or your Whole Foods, and they're not like, they don't want to be like the next big, simple or clear. That's not their goal, right? They don't want to be Olay. They want to be what they are. And because of that, they are like, they hadn't changed their imaging, their branding in like 30 years or 20 or whatever it was, like since they started. So they were really like on board with it. But I think that it's a good example of how they care about their like community the most and like build going slow and not aiming, like just try to do what you're going to do, what you do really well. And then I would say, gosh, who else? I did a campaign for Clean and Clear a long time ago, and we really started the See the Real Me campaign for Clean and Clear. And so we were able to go and find real girls and, of all different kinds and tell their stories and broadcast. And I think that was very, bold. It also just sort of like embraced, like they were saying, like, it was really like, don't be afraid to be you. When you're washing everything off your face, you're showing who you really are. And, I think this was before influencers really exploded. So it was like even more of an interesting thing to do. And I think we're going to see a lot of brands kind of going back this direction. But I mean, it's happening right now already. But I think that those are just a couple of the brands that I've worked with that have really inspired me. Also, I do a lot of work with smaller agencies that are maybe 2 or 3 people and they know their focus, like Fancy New York. They focus on women, and women, even women of a certain age. They focus on, they are the audience. So go after those brands and help those brands speak to that audience. And I think they do that really well.
Really, I'm just hearing more and more too about just, people are just niching down. It's kind of getting into that, know thyself, know what you do well. And execute accordingly.
And I think brands can do that. I think that what we're seeing now is a lot of lack of community, and like people want community, people want brands that bring them in. So think about it like this: if you're a brand and you stand for XYZ, or your ideal consumers is this kind of X kind of person, athletic, or they go to, they party, they whatever it is. Build that model and then go meet those people where they are. Be the reason they're putting their phone down and getting out of the house, and go and meet them in those places. And I think we're going to see a huge change in the next few years in that, which I love. Not only because like it's innovative and interesting. I just think that brands have wasted a lot of money throwing spaghetti at the wall, throwing everything every type of media just because they get an eyeball on it and they can track that person. That means nothing in the end of the day if you're not getting like engaged, loyal fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question is, what advice do you give new agency leaders that makes their jaw drop a little? Like what surprises people?
oh my gosh. Agency leaders, I would say you cannot expect older creatives like to be able to like work as well with younger. I think there needs to be I think right now what you see with a lot of agencies is like one or two really high senior people, and then they hire a bunch of very junior people, and there's absolutely no middle. Like we have lost the world for just senior art directors and like regular art, like middle of the road people who are teaching the young people. And I think a lot of that is because the model of like teaching and like bringing it down, it's harder. I mean, it is harder, but I think agencies don't like they're not making that a part of it. Like create your agency as a place to nurture and train really good creatives who then either don't want to leave or go on and be known as the people who like make great people, like make great artists, make great creatives. But I think it's this like, sense of we're just too busy, honestly, too busy to tell you how to do it, too busy to show you how to do it. We'll do it ourselves. And I think that is part of, this agency culture of there's only enough business for us. And like, we can't partner with other agencies or other teams. And it gets like really, I think that is typically what I say the most is that like, you don't have you're not structuring your teams the right way, or you have a lot of dead weight and you have like 3 people doing all the work. That's typically what I will assess from like an operations standpoint. And I will also tell whether it's an agency or just any other company, like no employee is ever going to care about your company as much as you do. It's not, they are employees. That's just the nature of it. They are not going to care with the passion that you do. And having that expectation of them is not fair.
Yeah, absolutely not. And what I find so refreshing, even talking to you right now, is just like you are completely honest and candid, and I can see how valuable you would be in any room. And I love the idea there has to be an intermediary between these young people we're bringing in to do a lot of absolutely necessary jobs right now and the people that have been in the business for a really long time. And there's a whole different style difference, and somebody's got to be bridging the gap, I
think there's people that are used to just like rolling over other people and like, I'll just do it, or this is how we're going to do it. And they don't want to think differently. And I think that is not like the kind of culture that you want to, build within your agency. But it's also, I think the people in the room that work for you are not as likely to go, something seems wrong with this, or, oh, I'm not sure about that idea, because they're scared. They're not as likely to do that as other people are. And I'm not saying that's good or bad thing. It's just, that's a forever thing. That's not going to change anytime soon. It's very, very rare, that's going to happen. And so you're going to get at the end of the day, we've all been in those like wrap post meetings where it's like, why did no one say this wasn't going to work? And it's like everybody was thinking it and nobody said anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every postmortem I've ever done. So how do you, and finally, how do you personally stay creative, sharp, and inspired when the pressure's on?
I think the pressure makes me get more creative because I have to get creative in the approaches. Being production, we tend to be the bottom of the funnel, and a lot of times to bottom of the funnel, where they think they have all the time to wait. And then it gets to us and we're having to spend so much money just to get it done on time. And then crazy new things come up. And that's where like I love getting creative and how we're going to do things. I think that's really interesting. Technology and resources are everywhere now. And I don't like to say nothing is impossible, but like to a certain extent, nothing is impossible. And there's a way to do anything you want. It's just a matter of like reverse engineering the approach. So like that is what, like, in the way that I think I used to joke, I don't have a skill. Like, I don't have a skill because I don't write or edit or, I was that person in film school, but I like to do paperwork and make schedules. So I became the producer. And I think there really is a creativity to it, especially there's the easy way to do it, which is discounting the creative and doing it the fastest, easiest way. And then there's the hard way, which is making sure that creative bar does not lower even an inch. And in most of the time begins to go up. And I think that's where, I thrive.
Okay, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a joy to talk to you, and I feel like I've learned a lot. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And stream.